All right, let's hit it. So 5, 4, 3, 2. Episode 7, Choice, a.k.a. Back to the Future 2.
AKA a lot of bad choices. A lot of bad choices. Like, as we're going to see, the Jedis make a lot of mistakes. Which is kind of the point. I saw some people getting upset that it's like they're doing the dumb stuff where it's like, well, yes, because that's what the story is about. The story is about people that made mistakes. And at least, like, they feel bad about them. It's not... I think some people, whether it's bad guys or whether it's good guys, they just want to watch competency porn all the time. Where, like, everyone's making the best moves. And there are stories for that. I like some stories where people are super competent. But, like, kind of the whole point of this as the inciting incident is that it's a little spillover of one mistake after another, and it's not idiot ball, right, where sometimes people just like start doing straight up dumb stuff. It's all sort of emotionally motivated. I have not won you over. I can read your face.
I didn't like it in Wakanda Forever, and I didn't care for it in here. If I could judge it on that, hey, this is going to get it too. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's almost kind of like if you didn't think the characters get any lower as far as like the stuff that the choices and how they're moving and stuff. And like, even though, and like watching it a second time, I got a chance to see some of the motivations or them speaking to why this is happening, like being homesick, or I have a feeling that, almost sounds inappropriate, even though it's not for a bad thing, but the way it was said, who knows? It was just kind of like, and then I don't know.
There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there is a lot.
I've got some notes.
Yeah. This was definitely a flashback episode. And the reason I made the crack about Back to the Future 2, because in Back to the Future 2, Marty's kind of overlooking at all the stuff that went by the first time. So, if something was happening, he's on stage and he's behind the curtain watching himself on the stage. So it's almost like behind the scenes kind of thing. And from that, you see the inside of the things that's happening behind the scenes. But this did that without even having anything extra happening behind the scenes. We're just seeing it from his view. But it's not, to me, it's not really giving any extra insight. Because sometimes when you do this kind of thing, you see something you didn't see before. You didn't see the bullies that was behind the stage that you didn't notice them before because you're on the side of the stage. So it wasn't really a lot. The only thing was like that
Soul snuck into the fortress. Right. And so there's a bit of like, oh, he made a noise and that's where they went off and everyone. Right. But it's all minor stuff as far as like, there's not like this got moved over here because of this. It's why. Right. It doesn't change what. It's just you understand the why of how the Jedi end up getting there and things happening.
But to see that and not to be used in a more, I don't know.
It's not elaborate.
If you're gonna repeat all that stuff again,
it's quite elaborate. Yeah,
right. But I'm saying if you're gonna repeat all this stuff, then bring something new to it. If you're gonna make us rewatch, it's like rewatching the episode over again. But what's the new perspective that you're kind of getting by looking over his shoulder, looking over theirs? I didn't see what that brought to the scenes and stuff that show. Because like he saw the girls.
There wasn't the segments where he's watching the girls and then sneaks into the fortress. It's not a long amount of time out of the episode as far as him like, oh, there's the girls in the woods. Okay, I call in, nothing happens. I go and follow. There's their parental unit. I follow. I'm gonna sneak into the fortress. It's
you watch him scold the girl. So we've seen the timeline, like it runs the same timeline as the other episode. And I'm saying all the stuff that was re-seen over again. What did you feel was added by us re-seeing all that stuff? I don't know. Like I said, when you see something like that twice, you would think they would add something else to it if you're going to re-see a scene from a different perspective. Usually that means new insight too, right?
For the scene where they're getting scolded, I think, is that the one where they're getting trained or the one where they're getting yelled at by the Zabarakian mother? Because the one where she catches them outside, and she's like, "You're not supposed to be outside."
No, that's the first one, and then they had another time when they was inside their encampment.
Right, and that's where they're being trained, right? And it's the other mother, like,
yes,
because
she's pushing back, yes.
Right? Because they're not being scolded; they're being trained, but it looks like she's doing something aggressive to the girls, right?
Right,
and that's all he sees because he immediately leaves after that. Right, and then he sees them doing the ceremony outside the opening in the cliff face.
Yeah.
Right, he sees things that, out of context, is like, oh, that kind of looks bad. Right, which is the whole problem with Soul, is that he sees things and interprets it in the most negative way possible, including his most critical failure, which is. Might as well just get to it.
Yeah.
When the mother starts to use a force ability when she's next to him, and he just immediately turns on his lightsaber and runs her through. Granted, she's turning into dark force mist, and that might throw someone off, but he's already in the wrong headspace.
Kind of like when he's presenting the lightsaber to the child aggressively. Is that a callback to that? Okay, so yeah.
It's just they make a lot of bad mistakes. They absolutely make a lot of bad mistakes. And it's a question of, do you find the mistakes believable? Or are you just annoyed that they're being stupid? Because there might be some people like, I don't want to see Jedi being dumb like this. Because it's not even dumb. It's like they're being reckless. They're being fearful. Like, they're just fucking up. If anything, Indara has the least to be, like, guilty about, aside from, man, I should have kept those idiots out. I should not have allowed them to do X and then Y and then da-da-da-da-da. Right? She didn't control them. She's the master. She's in charge. So that level of fucking up, of not keeping these yahoos in line, not great.
Yeah, it was.
For the most part, it's Torben and Soul, right, that make the most fuck-ups. Our Wookiee Jedi,
right?
He gets mind rolled. He gets Sith mind fucked, right? He gets possessed and attacks his two compatriots. And it's like, all right, I get feeling bad about that. You horribly scarred Torben, right?
Well, for a second time, because she already kind of mind raped him already before going into his head. And I thought it was kind of weird, interesting that the way she was kind of moving on him, like. Yeah, that poor
she's
kid.
Throwing some vibes, but again, like it's one of those things where it's not necessarily she's like, "Ooh, I know this trick will work on you." She's in his head. It might be his own repressed feeling. She's like, "Well, I'm just going to lean into that," right?
Still, it's
nothing
front.
to do with what. It's nothing to do with what she wants. Aside from that is an avenue I can exploit.
Right. Yeah. So
we get to see Torben actually get sort of seduced by the dark side, and it doesn't kick off then, but later, right, we understand how then the Wookiee can be taken over at the same time.
So how come it didn't work the second time? Because he said he's kind of like fortified this time because it won't happen again. So how was the? I was kind of curious on how.
Well, it's one of probably just one of those things. They don't explain it beyond like I've fortified my mind, which is just like I'm not caught off guard this time, right? So it's one of those things like, oh, I got conned once. I am not falling for that con again.
Yeah.
Right? And it might be just as simple as that, where it's like, I'm aware that can happen. I'm going to be more cautious. Whereas, unfortunately, our Wookiee, not so much. Plus, it took the rest of the Coven. And I think I kind of called this when we did episode 2, where it's like, I didn't think they got killed individually or in an explosion, but they did something to link their life force together. And that's exactly what happened. They linked themselves together in whatever that ritual was to control the Wookiee. And when Indara came in and broke that connection or did whatever, it killed all of them.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting. Well, we knew they wasn't burned up and they didn't have no lightsabers or anything because they were just laying out there. So, and then some of the stuff, like with the smoke and stuff, like, I can't tell if they hold some of that stuff back, so because it would give too much up front, because they're trying to wait till the end to show everything, to unveil. I don't know. Yeah.
I don't even know if the smoke's gonna show up again. Like, we don't know.
The smoke thing came up.
They established
mother. Yeah, with the mother stuff. Yeah.
They established the ability that that was something that apparently could be done, so that when we see her do it in reaction to May coming out, we understand that it's something she can do.
I didn't know exactly what she was doing with it, but I know that
neither do I.
So I know May looked like
she was trying to. Yeah, May was starting to disintegrate.
She was there too. So I didn't know if it was like emergence or something, but whatever. But if you're going to be able to turn to smoke, then you shouldn't be able to be stabbed by this lightsaber either. So I didn't understand. Like,
I don't think it was complete.
Like smoke, no problem. Solid, yes. But like with all the time we've been having, it could have been a little bit more explanation, but that's what it is. But they needed stuff to happen.
It's also, again, I think we talked about this before, is new magic stuff is weird sometimes, especially if you don't have a narrator going, by the way, if you turn to the Dungeon Master's Manual in page 36, this is how this ability works. It's like, some weird shit happened.
Yeah. Some people get scars and some people die from a lightsaber, like they said. Some people could be penetrated and live, and some die. So that's just how that goes. Okay, so I will say this: I thought it was interesting in the beginning how they were on a science mission. They wasn't out there the way mother put it, like they come around kind of like still kids and stuff. So they weren't really out there for that. They were out there on a science expedition trying to figure out how come there's life here on the planet and stuff like that. And they happened upon life in general. So I'm sure just seeing life there in general was a trip, and then to see the kids was a trip as well.
The other thing too is that they're throwing out there is like, they're like, oh, there's a big hyperspace disaster. That's the start of the High Republic books. There is a very big incident that's kicks off the whole series. So that they're referencing.
They mentioned that. Okay.
Right. And the Vergence is basically as Soul explains. There's a couple of those in continuity. The dark cave on Dagobah where Yoda is, that's a Vergence, right? So there's a number of these in the canon and in the old Legacy comics and stuff where there's just a strong concentration of the Force. And sometimes it's light side and sometimes dark side and sometimes it's just neutral.
And they're thinking that's what brought life to the planet. And it kind of ties into the confirmation that Torben wanted to go get. I think
there was a couple people that were like, "This dumb." They were complaining that the Wookiee was using a metal detector.
What? What?
Because he's using some sort of ground scanner, right? That's what that's his business, right? Soul's taking samples of the plants and stuff like that. The Wookiee's walking around with some sort of ground scanner that's basically in a configuration that we recognize as like a metal detector, right? It's probably not a metal detector, but it's some sort of ground scanner. But if people want to bitch about like, oh, they used the thing that we used in Star Wars and put some doodads on it, and it's like, yo, bud, that's like half the props in Star Wars.
Right. So what's the problem?
I don't know.
So what if it was a metal detector? Then what? We can't have things that's similar? Like they're wearing pants and shirts and stuff and gis, right? Hairstyles are the same and all that kind of stuff. So how does that happen?
Remember in The Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett, there's the money box thing?
Yeah.
Right? That is straight up a reference to a item that a guy was carrying and running with on Bespin in The Empire Strikes Back. Right? They're like, everyone get off Bespin, the Empire is coming, and people are running around. There's a guy, black guy, running around with that container. It's an ice cream machine. It's a fucking ice cream machine.
Yeah.
Right? But now it's a money box. So like, it's just dumb stuff. Like, there's other things people could complain about, but my God.
Okay, so we get more insight on what's going on as far as they kind of touch back on the point of the creation of the girls, and we kind of find out due to the Vergence, they use that to create life, and that it almost seems, the way they said it, is that they are of one person split into two.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were scanning and saw that, hey, they're twins, but this is not possible.
They're not even twins.
It's the same. They are the same.
Yes.
Like split. So I thought that was interesting, and really, the Jedi should have some concern about that. Are they the police over that kind of stuff? Okay, it could be like shady doings, you know, but to them, the witches, it could be their natural thing as none of the Jedi's business. But, okay, say if anomalies like that happen, right? Is the Jedi's over that? Are they to stop when they see things like that happening? Or they just mind their own business? Or I didn't understand. Like, if they're not the police, then they can do what they want to. And why hide it?
If someone appeared floating over the temple in Jerusalem, floating up in the air, did not talk to anyone, but clearly just magically floating above the temple, which religion gets to claim him? Right? There's no justification for doing it except the one that you can provide. Right? So, is there legal justification? They're out in, what was it, the Outer Rim. They're way outside the territory of the New Republic.
I just don't understand why Soul felt like it was his place.
Because he thought something bad was going to happen because they're witches, they're dark side users, this is weird. His reaction did come off really strong, and it was weird.
It was almost kind of like me being a father. I was like, if anybody's looking at my kid like that, or running behind my kid, or watching my kid, even if they didn't know our situation, I would think it was a problem. That would be looked at different.
The other way to look at it is like, he's part of the dominant religion, and there's this cult, and they have 2 kids that they're hiding on this weird planet. So it's like, from his perspective, like, he might be like, these are bad people, we should get them away from it. And it might be as simple as that. But still, it's just like, yo, slow your roll, dude. But he's also like, but they're going to do a ritual tonight. They're going to do the ascension. They might, and they talked about sacrifice. It's like, so it's like,
So
still,
I can't tell if it. Okay, so I've seen stuff like that before, but I don't know if it was his acting or what, or the way it's written. But it came off. I'll say this: me seeing it a second time, it kind of rolled me back a little bit on some of my initial thoughts and feelings when I first saw it, because it was just seemed like out of pocket, right? But it was just kind of like the characters are acting weird and just kind of all over the place and stuff. And I don't know if I could say it matched what was going on for me. But like I seen the second time, and kind of know what was going to come and paying more attention to what's being said. And I'm like, okay, at least it's being said. But I still don't necessarily felt it equaled the actions and what was said. Because even Trinity's character, even like she was kind of like, hey, she kept telling everybody kind of like to chill and to back down. Back off, like several times.
Yes,
it's like several times, like the itchy finger cop that wants to go get those guys, and the captain's like, "Hey, dude, do not go in there." Or with Trayvon Martin, "Hey, don't handle it. It's none of you. It's not your place." But he's in their neighborhood. And he looks strange to me. Hey, do not pursue.
See, it's even earlier today, I was like, if we had the hyper competent version of her, it would have been, okay, there are concerns. You assholes are pushing this. I'm going to go in, right? Because they all get there and like, we're going to go in together, right? She's like, I'm going to go in. And then they're like, we can't let you go in alone, da-da-da. And she's like, no, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to keep my comm link open so you can hear everything that happens. If shit goes sideways, you either come in and get me, or I'm going to give you the directive of you get the fuck out of here, you report back to the council, and you bring reinforcements. Boom. That's it. If nothing goes sideways, you stay the fuck out of the fortress, and I'm going to go in alone, right? And it's one of the things that she gets inside. She's like, does the same thing. Hey, let's be cool. And they're like, oh, you came alone. Like, no, they're outside, but they're hotheads. They're super concerned. They're a little too worked up, which is why I left them outside, because I want us to have a nice civil conversation. Blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, whoop, show's over. Nothing happened. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, he was just very, like I said, I feel a connection to her. I want her to be my Padawan. And she even made a joke or comment earlier about him not having one, and that's why I have one and you
I
don't.
wanted to get to that.
So he already kind of have an issue that we don't even know exactly what the issue is. Part of it, we can see that he's very emotional about stuff and probably
exactly.
And
that's one of those things where, like,
stuff like that. So
even when I saw it the first time, like, and I saw it again the second time, like that, it flows in that conversation, and it doesn't feel like, exposition or foreshadowing.
Right, but it was.
But it's very smooth. But it's like, yeah, you're a little too extra, and that's why.
And we all know.
Yeah, and we all know.
Yeah.
And it's like, haha. Like, I felt like aside from like the rest of sort of all the fuck ups going forward.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like this version of the Jedi, not just these four, but like even the ones back on Coruscant and Venestra and the others that she's working with, like they do feel more like people. They've gotten away from sort of the wooden, wooden prequel ones.
I thought you were gonna say they feel more like stormtroopers.
Not where I was going.
That's what I was thinking. Either they're not the sharpest tool in the box.
This might also be one of those things where it's like the fuck ups of the Jedi sort of at their peak and not super regulating themselves and causing incidents like this is one, degrades the public perception of the Jedi, because there is that Vernestra conversation with a senator like, hey, there's this guy trying to do an open investigation into you guys. She's like, all right, fuck. But it also might be the Jedi themselves be like, yeah, we really, really need to make sure we don't make these sort of mistakes again in our training, and like who we allow to be Padawans and who, really don't want to take kids that are super young because of maybe what happened with Osha and May. Right. And that's why they're like, this Anakin kid, we kind of been here before. Let's not do this unless someone super insists. But yeah, it's still, it was a lot in this. I could see people being like, what are you guys fucking doing? Right? Because they're fucking up.
It's almost like those characters or shows and stuff where, the person seems to be competent the whole time, and all of a sudden they can't even sit down in a chair. They fall all over the place. They can't. And so if we knew these were the F-ups, if we knew these were the ones that was kind of like, you have some shows, we got the team and they done messed up, so they getting washed out, and so this is the team of the leftovers, and so it's not even that, you know what I mean? So we had no reason to think that we were dealing with people that would like, hey, we need evidence. Oh, I'll run and kidnap the girls to prove that there's a, or hey, I need a Padawan, or those are witches and they're bad. It's like, if you're scary, don't leave. Don't leave out the house. Don't. You know what I mean? So I guess I didn't know. I didn't know that's what we were dealing with them, because they seemed so all right in the beginning. But I guess this is a show of discovery and different sides of things, maybe.
Well, and to your point, I think you're making an episode 2 ago of just not matching expectations. Like, we have a version of the Jedi from the prequels in our heads, where they kind of all are acting like adults and they kind of got their shit together, and these ones not so much. Also, we've seen Soul as an adult.
Yes.
We've so it's like going back in time, and it's like, wait a minute, 20-year-old, teenager, whatever, like, oh, they're acting so dumb, and we've seen them as competent adults. And it's like, oh, if we had seen this in order, it would have been like, oh, they fucked up because they're a bunch of youngins. Oh, and now we get to see, oh, there's a change 16 years later. Mm-hmm. Oh, and then it would have just been like, oh, well, we know exactly why. We know exactly why Torben, right? We know why Soul seems to be like this because he fucked up. Mm-hmm. We can see why even Indara, right, got thrown off by the Jedi don't, attack the defenseless, right? Because she didn't do it personally, but she let her fucking idiot subordinates go and start a big fucking fight, right? So, but us having the prequel Jedi, us seeing these Jedi before the flashbacks makes that contrast feel really weird, right? Because it doesn't match. It's like the same sort of thing with oh, we have young Luke and then we have old sequel Luke, and what the fuck happened, right? It's just reversed now as far as order of continuity. So people are like, this feels weird. I'm like, yeah, I get it. It didn't throw me off. It was more of like, oh, it's like watching a train wreck in slow motion of like, oh, come on. It's going to go bad. It has to go bad because you already know it went bad. It's just like, don't. And that's not fun to watch a lot of times, right?
It's the way it's done though too. That plays into it as well, Yeah. We got a chance to see the other mother telling May to get mad and to make your sister stay.
Definitely did not de-escalate that.
It's funny because when we've seen her before in earlier episodes, put it like this, she seemed like she kind of went along more with the other mother, with having concerns, versus being like throwing a kid down and being like, hey, give him hell, baby. It was a whole other kind of personality. And I think, like, on this episode, we've seen characters we've been watching for a few episodes now, and everybody was on a different thing. To me, they were heightened way more than I kind of remember them being. So to see them act certain kind of ways seemed like it really, I don't know. Like I said, maybe some of the stuff they're trying to hold close to the chest because they was going to use it for the reveal later. But it's just like when I first saw Torben, I wouldn't have thought. And I'm talking about not see him as an old man. I'm talking about see him earlier when they showed these scenes. Didn't seem like he'd be the one that would run off to go get the girls to prove that something like that's happening.
They kept the camera off him so much as far as personality or any other interactions.
Or even Soul just running behind the girls and stuff like that, you know, and even the way he was kind of creeping and stuff was like, I don't know.
And to your whole thing of like his reactions are really strong when he spots them.
Yes.
And he calls Indara. Oh my God, he seems so freaked out.
Right.
He really does seem like,
right.
It was like, dude, fucking, like, keep it under control, man. You just like, hey, there's other people here. But he was like, oh my gosh. I was like, yeah, bro, who let you out of the temple? Right. So, yeah, I get the whole, like, is a little much.
Yeah, all that just seemed it was a lot compared to what we were seeing before.
And we see May didn't start the fire on purpose.
And we still don't understand how it burnt down the whole thing. I still, even with that, even on the other side of it, like I know
I was like, it's still just because she dropped the lamp. Like she didn't do it on purpose. She burnt her sister's journal.
It wasn't that kind of fuel. Fuel don't roll up the wall and all around the
just like
blowing up the piping.
Is it actually made out of wood? Like what is going on? Yeah, is that like hyperspace fuel or something crazy? I don't know.
Anyway, it burned down. But the truth is, I didn't think she was going to try to really kill her sister. I never thought that.
Exactly.
Anyway.
So it was like, okay, there it is.
But that was a crazy ass explosion from that situation. So even seeing the other side of it almost made it more confirmation of the craziness of it. It still didn't make no sense. But whatever. They needed a fire. They got a fire.
Right. We get a Wookiee Jedi getting possessed, and holy crap.
Yeah.
There's parts of that where, like, I do echo some of people's complaints online where it's like he's just like making these big sweeping smashing cuts, and it's like it'd be one thing if it was like Wookiee Jedi, I keep forgetting his name, I'm going to attack someone, and the way he fights would be probably very different, as opposed to I'm being puppeted by a bunch of dark side witches.
Yeah, I'm
probably not going to be doing.
He's hulking out.
Okay, yeah, kicked a hole in the wall. You do know why the episode is called Choice, right?
Yeah. Are you being funny?
Okay. No, hold on. I've got a baby being passed into the room. Oh, okay. Hi, kiddo. I haven't been looking at my phone.
Such a cutie. Welcome to the show, sweetie.
5 months.
She's a happy baby.
Right.
That's the best.
Just like her brother. Okay, so you figured out why it's called Choice. Why is it called Choice?
Okay, this is going to go into an issue I kind of have. And I'm trying to think of the best way to talk about it. Because it's going to tie into... And I don't know why they kind of did it, but okay. So, I had an issue with it the first time I saw it. I had an issue the second time I saw it, too, and I thought it was very interesting. But the whole thing, when we talked about Mother getting taken out by Soul, right? And the whole thing... The argument was about a choice as far as what was going to happen with Osha.
Oh, I wouldn't have let her go?
No, that she was going to let her go. Yeah, it was her choice. I was going to let her go. The whole thing came up in different ways. It came up with, they even had this thing where they try to play it where you couldn't tell what Mother was going to decide. And it was discussion that was happening. And then it was almost kind of like, well, in a way, the choice is going to be kind of taken away from Soul, because Soul wanted to, make it happen. He wanted to take the kids. It wasn't going to be a choice. He was going to take it. And then Mother's talking with the Coven, and they're talking about, hey, they're part of this. We need them. I'm not sure how they're connected to them and what that meant. I know they're supposed to be a leadership.
Right. Whatever plan they're supposed to have for them.
Right. But they're supposed to be some kind of leadership, because I remember Trinity's character earlier was asking, like, how are you tied in with this? And how are you going to be a leader? You're just a kid. And this, that. Could you explain to me? And they did the best.
What does ascension mean? And then he's like, oop, I'm going to stop talking.
Exactly. Can I go home now? So all this stuff. And so when the battle kind of broke out in a way, well, everybody got their fighting stance. Torben likes his lightsaber. The other mother has her staff and all that. And, Mother's going for her child. Soul sees her turn to smoke, accidentally takes her out. Well, purposely, he took her out. And she's dying. He grabs her. She tells him, I was going to choose to let her go with you. And he's looking like, what?
Yeah, he fucked up.
Yeah. But, okay, so before that, when they didn't want to give away what her choice is going to be, and she's talking to her Coven, they were concerned about, letting the child go and all this other kind of stuff. And even the other mother was concerned about that, right? Oh, yeah. And we saw how she really felt later.
The one scene that they really did replay.
Yeah. And so they showed how she felt to the point where you stop your sister. And so the thing was brought up, hey, you are a leader. And she said, I choose to be their mother.
Right.
I don't know why they're using it the way they're using it. I don't know their intentions. I have a sneaky suspicion that they're trying to tie that kind of with stuff that's kind of going on, because everything is kind of tied to real life in a way, and social stuff and different things like that. But I'll say this as a parent, that this whole thing of doing what our kids want to do, their first mind, their nature as a kid, they're very open and spontaneous, right? They don't have any wisdom. They have energy, they have ideas, they have all this kind of stuff, right? And so just because your child wants something, it doesn't make you a bad parent to say no. It's our place to say no or know what's better for them. So sometimes you have parents that'll be like, if the kids want this or want to do this, then let them do this. They're their own person. No, they're not. That's why they have parents that help bring perspective and wisdom to situations. If it's something that's a big decision, a lot of times it's really up to the parent to decide what they think is going to be best for the child. The child could disagree with it and be upset and be mad, and maybe further down the line understood the logic, or be like, oh, I'm glad my parents saved me from that because I didn't know. I thought it made sense at the time, And so this whole thing of just giving the kid what they want, regardless of what it is, no matter how big it is, I thought it was kind of interesting that she made that choice. I, as a parent, wouldn't have made that choice. I would think it was the wrong choice. So even though they try to make it seem like it was her choosing her job or her choosing her girlfriends over her children, I think that was misplaced like that. They tried to make it seem like it was kind of tied together, and it was a whole other different thing. Now, if it was a thing like my child needs me because they need extra attention or help, and me being here is taken away from that, then I understand that. Okay, I'm going to choose to be with my kid, but my kid's still not going. So it's just, I think they mixing stuff together that I don't think really goes together. And I think that I didn't agree with Mother's choice of saying, yes, you could take my kid. Especially not knowing what that kid is and how it's created and what that means and all that kind of stuff. And how's that tied in? If they're really connected like they're saying, and somebody could be taken out and everybody's taking out their LinkedIn, what does that mean to even have that outside of your circle? It didn't make no sense. I didn't understand, other than to put that look on his face when he did it, when he took her out, and to hear her say, I chose to let her go with you. I thought that if it was just for that, it wasn't worth it, because I didn't understand the logic, especially if they were so protective of those girls and stuff. For many reasons, I didn't understand her decision, her choice. Yeah, it just didn't sit right to me. But I've seen things where, and I saw, like I said, where parents and children make big decisions before their time. And you're talking about something that would choose candy every night for dinner, that would not go to bed at a decent time, who would not learn to read, write, or do anything else necessarily, that would want to play video games all the time, who might want to get a tattoo at 11, all kind of things. It's a lot of stuff you would like to do. But you have parents to see the other side of things. So, and I'm choosing my child, so I'm going to let them do it. to me, that rang kind of different to me for that to be how she, how I took it as her coming to a conclusion with her saying that's what she wants. That's her choice. She chose you, so I will back her choice. That would have been a choice. Now, I might let her choose what she wanted for dinner, hot dogs or hamburgers, but
Right.
a whole life away. Like I said, I don't even know what she is in her ties. Yeah, no.
Yeah, the leaving bit is the thing that's like, like, it would have been one thing if it was like, I wasn't gonna make her do the ascension. If she had said that, like, I'm not gonna make her do the ascension.
That's different. Yes. Okay.
Right? That's a different thing. And it would have been like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna make her do the thing that you are worried about, right? But I can get the like, and I'm gonna let you take my kid, even though she says she wants to go.
Right.
Right? And it'd been one of those things if like before May like burned the book,
Yeah.
if it was one of the things where like the mother and Osha talked about the book, right? And it's like, I've been thinking about this for months and months and years and years and years, right? And it's not like just a thing that came up yesterday. And it would be like, okay, maybe, right? But it's still one of those things where like, I'm gonna let strangers take my kid. And as much as like some of us might be like, well, but the Jedi are the good guys, like they may not think so. They're in a other Force user cult, probably for a reason.
Yeah, she's a forced clone baby thing, and we don't know what she is. I thought that was kind of big decision to, and if it's like a thing like, if you, yeah. Like, so it's nothing wrong for a child wanting to dream and be something, but then, like I said, hey, I'm 9 and I want to be a stunt car driver, and they got this little camp that you could learn how to stunt drive at age 9, and I want to go. No, you're not going.
And even then, it'd
Sorry.
be like, oh, for a week? Oh, okay, sure. And then you can come back. Not, you're going to go off and I'm never going to see you again. Right?
I wouldn't want my 9-year-old stunt driving at 9. I don't care if it was a week. I don't care if it was a day. I don't care if it was an hour. I don't care if
it's just go-karts. They got roll cages. Now, funnily enough, that's not the choice I was referring to.
Okay.
It might be the choice they were thinking of for the title. The episode's called Choice, right?
Yeah.
It's not the choice I was referring to.
Okay.
Is later in the episode. It's when Soul finally gets through into the fortress after everything's blown up and on fire, and he sees both the girls, and the bridge starts to collapse.
Yeah.
Because that was the choice I was focusing on, because he did have to choose, and I think he knows which kid is which. And I mean, I saw people being like, why didn't he just like force pull both of them? It's like, who knows? He might not be able to switch gears that fast, but he picked. Right? It might have been one of those things like we get an alternate version where he tries to grab both of them and it doesn't get either. But he clearly picks, right? Yeah. And somehow May survives magically. Somehow Palpatine's back. But that's his choice, right? And he even says in the previous episode, like, if somehow you ever survived, like, I thought about what I would say to you these 16 years, right?
Right.
So and it's probably one of those things, like, and that choice haunted me. I killed your mother because I thought she was going to do something bad to you, and I totally got it wrong. That was the wrong choice. And then I saved your sister, and I feel bad that I couldn't save you both, right? But I had to make a choice. I could have grabbed you. But that's where I was going with choice. Your thing was much more involved, though.
Well, he made so many bad choices that I didn't even think that was, to be honest, I didn't. He consistently made bad choices, from him chasing after him in the first place, not listening to when he's told to stand down. So okay, but that's fair too. But his whole thing is just
and even it was interesting too, of like we were talking in the previous episode where there was so much unarmed combat.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where it's like, it's one thing to be like, oh, well, the Jedi probably trained a lot of unarmed combat stuff, blah, blah, blah. But it's also like, it could be seen as a choice by some of these Jedi of like, maybe we should find ways of defending ourselves and fighting people without using our lightsabers, without going for the kill option first, right?
Well, I don't know. If they're going into people's minds and stuff, that's almost worse.
Yeah, right.
Puppeteering folks.
Oh, yeah. No.
Yeah, so I don't think they have a problem using lightsabers if they're in people's heads.
The other problem, too, is like part of the difficulty of that fight against the Wookiee is they didn't want to kill him. All right, they could have been just like, all right, fucking game on. I'm going to just cut your arm off. Like, he has a point where he knocks the lightsaber out of his arm. He could have just cut the fucking hand off, right? But he was trying to find a way to take down his comrade without killing him or harming him.
Right.
So,
a lot of chaos.
And the big thing at the end is they decide to cover it up.
Yes, they did.
Right?
That was a choice. That was a choice right there.
A choice. And this is one of the. So basically, they're having this conversation right before in the original flashback that Osha wakes up. But Soul's like, I have to go and tell the council. Like, I gotta tell them what happened, right? I gotta come clean, which is also something he says in the previous episode when he's talking with May. He's like, I gotta go to the council, and then that never happens. So the cover up. Yeah,
so we know that Master Endora, she didn't want to tell because she done killed the whole coven of witches. So that was a quick turn of like, oh, no, you can't do that. What about what she wants? You want to take her dream away from her?
Yeah, this.
Like, I don't know how it worked, but they all dropped like flies, and
it's like the whole reasoning implies that if we tell the council, there's no way this kid is going to be allowed to be a Jedi, right? And it's like, you'll ruin the whole thing, and da-da-da-da. And it's like, yo.
I took it for her trying to save her butt. I never took it her really cared for the kid like that. I think that she knew that was the angle he would need to keep him on point. Not talking.
So if it was intended as that's a genuine, like, she really gives a shit that, like, at the end of the day, after all the things that they've done, we really have to care about this kid's dream. That seems like a stretch. But if it's like, no, this is the excuse I need to justify covering this up, that's more reasonable. I don't like it more. Like, it's still like that's a really crummy move. Yeah, but
she knew the only thing that's gonna shut that dude up was to be like, hey, she's not gonna be happy.
And again, it's one of those things of like, we got to watch a car wreck of choices here. I didn't like that. Yeah. Either from like just a poorly written choice of like, that's literally her genuinely trying to do the right thing by Osha, or she's not. And then it's just a really crummy choice. It's unsatisfying either way. And like, if it's intended to be like, no, this is a train wreck of bad choices, we're going to show you things that are really bad choices. And like, yeah, that one sucks. As opposed to just a poorly written actual. It's a rough episode.
On many levels.
Ways that are intended and unintended.
Exactly. And like I said, I didn't understand why they even all had to die. And hopefully there's more information on how that works, but it really seems like that's what happened. But I will say, okay, so I may have had the mothers wrong, but I still think a mother is still behind all this crap. The one that all of a sudden we get to see her flipping out and acting really, because really the way it was presented, I thought the mother that I was originally talking about, I thought that she was the one that was kind of like, was a loose cannon behind the scenes that we just didn't know and act regal in front of everybody, in front of the Jedi's, but was thinking like, we can't trust these. But we saw from this episode, there was the other mother that's really the one, because the
ready
mother,
to go.
because the other mother's going to give her child away, which I thought, and like I said, I still think that was written for the story because it needed to happen more so than how I think it would go. But if that's what they're saying, it goes, that's how it goes. But they're saying one mom was fine with the choice of the daughter going away, and the other one was not going to let it happen. You could almost say that she kind of lit the match, which was her daughter, to even cause the fire and all the rest of that stuff kind of going down the way it did. Right. The way she drew on the Jedi when she heard that, when there's even questioning about taking her child. And I'm not saying she's wrong, because that's her That's her family.
Right.
That's her child. Whatever. That's her
Right.
coven and all that. But I'm just saying that energy that brought you all that, I think is the same energy that brought you Smiley Rand and all the rest of those.
Because I'm pretty sure also we don't see her die.
No, I didn't see her die. I saw the other mother die, but not
the
not
other mother's
her.
definitely dead, but she's question mark, so she might be in play.
So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I think it'll be a harder sell after she gets like played with by Soul, not in a mean way, but like she's attacking Soul right after he kills the other mother. She starts attacking him, and it's very clear at that point. He's like, "Oh fuck!" Like he's already like, "I fucked up," because he could have just been like, "And yoink, you're dead too."
Yeah.
And he was very much like, Nope.
Yeah, he wouldn't draw on her. He
Nope.
was just dodging.
Right.
Yeah, he wouldn't draw on her.
He's just dodging, get out of the way.
Because she's
right?
like saying, "Fight me, fight me."
And she hit him in the face like twice, and he just kind of like, "Yeah, I earned that. Yeah, I earned that," but also not like, "Ow." He's not like, "Oh, you're." It's just like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, okay."
I'll say it a nice way: body weight.
Yeah. So the whole like, what? She's not overpowering him.
Right.
She's not.
Right. But I'll leave it alone. Yeah, I agree. Now we see many
to be like, how does she get powerful enough to be, Khmer's master in the end?
Well, if she's mind control, it could be, could be swaying him. Who knows? Well, we'll see. I thought it was interesting, like I said, his striking him like that, and it was like no big deal. Any other time, we seen the dude fly across the room, acrobats and flipping people around. So when have you seen
nothing any of the witches did?
But when is the last time you seen a woman hit a guy and the guy did not feel any effects besides real life? Besides in real life, when have you ever saw?
What you were getting at.
I know you did. But when's the last time you seen a woman hit a guy on a movie or a TV show and not be affected by it, like real life? Yeah. All right. So I thought.
But you saw with all the witches, like they're not super combat heavy. Like they got what? Basically, sci-fi bows and arrows, right? Which they were shooting at Torben, but they're not melee combatants, right? And even their flavor of the Force might not be doing telekinesis and other things like that. I mean, look at what the Coven does. They try to mind control someone, right? So she just literally in the Force and physically may not have enough to overpower Soul, who seems pretty competent combatant even then. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a stretch to see her as the one pulling the strings on Khmer.
Like I said,
what's left in the tank for the last episode.
I know,
right?
I know,
because I don't think it's going to be Book of Boba Fett. Sort of like they're going to try and cram in too much. It's what are they going to resolve and what are they going to leave open, right? Because I don't think they can resolve all, like there's too much. They've got plans for a season 2, so they're not going to try and resolve everything, but it's who's going to be left on the board.
You know what? I can't even tell how this show is doing. I'm hearing so much stuff that I can't even tell.
There's so much noise in the conversation.
I'm really curious on how it all going to roll out.
Review bombing discussion, like the viewing numbers, like.
And to be honest, when I first watched these last 2 episodes, I'm like, what happened? Like, it wasn't like everything was perfect before, but after that previous episode, that was such a high point that, okay, this shut everybody up. And then the following episode, next 2 episodes, like, oh, this is what they were talking about. So it's funny how it just, had that high and went back. But I will say, watching it again does take some of the sting off, and you can kind of at least see where they were at least trying to put breadcrumbs or speak to things that really seemed like they didn't on first viewing. And I'm sitting there watching to notice and see stuff. But, like, depending on how things are written, or how it's being laid out and directed. All that stuff are factors. Did it change the fundamentals of the episodes? No, not at all. But it brought more sense to it. And it also like writing notes and discussing with you and that kind of stuff. So if you're a person who's watching this show and halfway enjoying it, you already seen it probably too. And you were thinking like, I would say if you were kind of like, I would say you probably would feel a little bit better about it watching it again. And I got more out of seeing episode 7 again than I did 6, even though 6 had a lot going on with that too, even though it's kind of a slow burn. We've got one more to go, so we'll see what that does.
Yeah, it's really like, for me, it's like, I assume both the twins are going to survive. Kimir's going to survive. I don't think he's getting off anytime soon.
Yeah.
The question is really, is Soul going to survive? Because he also ran away from the rest of the Jedi. He jumped the ship out away from the Wookiees' planet, right? Jedi go and do all their investigation, blah, blah, blah. So, and he's got, Basil on board. So really it comes down to what's going to happen with Soul, right? Because I'm pretty sure Osha's going to become the Acolyte. What happens with Soul and May? Are they going to be able to resolve whatever tension comes out of, okay, I've told you everything now, I'm going to let you go. Basil's in play in the background. What do they do? Do they go back to the council? I think that's a low probability. Do they not manage to work it out? Does May take out Soul somehow? Blah, blah, blah. And that seems, I don't know. They could theoretically, she's like, I know where his beachfront villa is. Let's go say hi, right? Let's go get my sister. Because I think in that first episode, she's on the beach. She's walking up to him. He's got the helmet on. That could be the same location. So she may actually know exactly where Osha is. So it might come down to they, Soul, Basil, and May, go to Kimir's hideout, and there is a big confrontation there, and then the survivors, which is probably not Soul, and maybe one of the sisters die, they vanish from out underneath the Jedi.
So what happens to what's her name, who was supposed to be on their way to that island?
They made it to the Wookiee planet. They, found all the dead Jedi and all the rest of it.
That's right.
And they did. It did seem like they were hinting at the Force Echo ability, where you can hear things from the past, right? And that came out in like the Jedi Survivor game.
That was used in Ahsoka as well, because that's how they found
Right. So it's going to be interesting if May tells Soul where Osha and Kimir are.
Because they both want Osha.
They both want Osha, right?
Yeah.
May still seems like, she force pushed her sister and did the body swap with her, but probably not going to want to leave her with Kimir. Right? So they go and figure out where Kimir is. Does Soul then radio the rest of the Jedi and say, go here, I'm on my way there, that's where the bad guy is? Or does he not? It's going to be interesting, because like Soul not calling in for reinforcements, unless we're given a really good compelling reason why, it's going to look dumb.
Dumb or consistent?
Well, young Soul would be like, okay, that's consistent. But even then, he called Indara like, there's other people here. Whatever. I don't know. We're going to have to see. Like, I think that's going to be the conclusion of the season, but I don't think that's going to be at the end of Kimir. I don't think he's going down, and I think one of the sisters becomes his acolyte, right? And that could then, it could be like, well, we're not going to do a season 2, and that's enough. That is a story, right?
Right.
Or it could be, and there will be a green light later, right? I think there has to be, even at the end of this, there has to be something that goes back to the council, Venestra, most likely. And there has to be some sort of, something happened. How does this affect the Jedi Order, even if they don't find out that there was an actual Sith, right? Because then it's a clean, we don't have to do a season 2, or we could still do a season 2.
And we're seeing that they're good at keeping secrets, so they could know there's a Sith, but don't speak of it.
Right? And also, like, I mean, another cover-up component. We know there's going to be an investigation into the Jedi by a senator, so it might also get the we gotta let's not bring this up. We just lost 4 Jedi because of a thing.
It's too much explaining, and we're in too deep. It never happened. We never speak of this.
And it would be one of those things where, like, they kind of describe the ambitious senator that wants to do the investigation. It could be one of those things where if they did come totally clean with everything that happened, even the stuff from 16 years ago, and be like, yep, and we just found out, and we are going to do stuff, and we're not going to let this happen again, it would still be spun as the Jedi are incompetent, da-da-da-da-da, and blah, 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 blah. So it's like, I kind of get it, but it's not the right move.
Huh. Okay.
I really don't want this to be a Book of Boba Fett. I've been enjoying this show. And I enjoyed all these episodes, but it's like the landing is always what counts, right? Because it's the last thing, right? So it's either going to leave a good taste in your mouth or a bad taste in the mouth, right? Mm-hmm. And if it's just okay and there's other stuff earlier, you'll remember the other stuff earlier. But if it's really bad, at the end, you're going to be like, So, should be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. I'm curious. Yeah, we'll find out soon. Got one more episode to go. I think we talked the heck out of both of these. Any final words?
Jeez. I would just, as a nice reminder to all my fellow Star Wars fans, to don't give in to the dark side. Maybe express, like we have, your displeasures, your disappointments, your criticisms, and, just be chill about it and be like, yeah, I didn't like this, and then go about your day.
Yeah.
If you're still hate watching this on episode 7,
just put it down.
Stop watching.
Let it go.
Just let it go.
Be
like Elsa. Let it go.
Right. And it's easy to get caught up too, right? It's easy to, jump in on it and, but if you don't have any kind of constructive criticism or whatever, or like you said, you just don't like it, then just don't watch it. And it's not to be glib, but just really.
Just think about it as you're re-traumatizing yourself. If you're already upset
just say no.
The direction Star Wars has gone, da-da-da-da-da, and it's like you always have the parts you still like. Just enjoy those parts, right? Yeah. It's like if I was reading a comic book run and I was like, this is trash, I would just stop reading it. And then I would erase it from my memory. Yeah. That's the way to go.
And if I was a kid, somebody taking my toys and they're smashing them together, I'll just punch them in the face, and then kick him out of my room and say, don't you ever touch my toys again. But, what Ryan said was really the best way to go about it. On that note, this has been Jay. I've been cutting up too much. All right, this is Jay and Ryan. We're discussing episode 7, Choice. Till next time, peace.
Make good choices.
It's not hard to be sold.
Oh, man. Yeah.